Hey, what's up guys, Merganman4 here, and after taking a slight detour into revisiting some past faces with the 60th anniversary specials, the new era has finally, properly begun. Introducing us properly to Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, as well as Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. And here they are introduced to us on Christmas Day. Now, we obviously haven't had any Christmas specials for a while. It's been 6 years since the last one, and it's no surprise to anyone that with RTD coming back, he was going to want to reinstate those. Now, right up front, unpopular opinion here, I did not miss the Christmas specials, and I'm actually kind of disappointed to see them come back. Contrary to what you might think, though, that's not actually because of the content of the Christmas specials. It's more just, I just preferred Doctor Who on New Year's Day. There's so much else going on Christmas. I've already got plenty to keep me occupied, and it's probably the only day of the year where it's easy to forget that Doctor Who is on, for me at least. So I kind of preferred it on New Year's Day because all the exciting stuff is already happening on Christmas. There's not a lot on New Year's, so it was nice to have something to look forward to then. But that's a minor niggle, and obviously only something that has any impact on the first broadcast. Any subsequent rewatches are obviously going to be disconnected from that. And I will say, honestly, first time I watched this episode, I was pretty underwhelmed. To its credit, when I rewatched it the next day, I did enjoy it quite a bit more. But yeah, I don't know. On the whole, still, I'm just going to be upfront about it. This is on the weaker side of Doctor debuts for me. Not in terms of the Doctor themselves, because Ncuti Gatwa, like he was in The Giggle, is instantly magnetic, charismatic, full of charm and wit and energy. And, I mean, he's just instantly the Doctor. There really isn't any period of adjustment there. And, honestly, if you didn't know that this was his first full story, you wouldn't get that from the episode itself. He comes in here fully formed, and honestly, I don't even think there's any reference to The Giggle or anything, so who knows how much time has passed for him since then. And so on the one hand, that's great, because there really isn't any sort of uncertainty about it. He feels like he's been the Doctor for ages. But on the other hand, I do always kind of like watching the new Doctor discover themselves and kind of find out who they are now, and we completely miss that here. So really, it does not feel like a Doctor's first story at all. And yeah, I do kind of have mixed feelings about that. I think it has both benefits and detriments, and I do think I would have preferred a little bit more of explicit discovering himself. But like I said, Ncuti's great in the role, so it's not a massive deal. Of course, we're also introduced to new companion Ruby Sunday here. Millie Gibson is similarly great in the role. She's very likable and fun to watch, but I have to admit, I don't really feel like we learned all that much about Ruby. I mean, we learned a lot about her backstory of her being a foundling and adopted, but I don't really feel like I know her as a character. It very much felt kind of surface level to me. And like I said, she's likable, but I don't really feel a particular draw to her as a character. I'm not really engaged with her all that much yet. And I'm hoping, obviously, that will develop across Season 1/Series 14. But I had hoped for a bit of a stronger hook for her first appearance. On that note, I am also disappointed that we seem to be back into the territory of companions as mysteries. I mean, Ruby herself isn't as much a mystery, but there is obviously the mystery of who her parents are. And RTD has expressed that as something that we'll learn more about as time goes on. And I don't know how I feel about that, because for one thing, I just really like it when the companion is just kind of like along for the ride. It's just the Doctor and the companion having adventures and fun together. I don't really like it when the companion's life becomes part of the plot or the ongoing mystery. And to be fair, we haven't actually had that for a while. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think the last time that happened was Clara's introduction in Series 7, which was a full 10 years ago now. But I can't say that it's something that I missed. And I am kind of disappointed that RTD seems to be going down that road. I like the idea of Ruby being adopted as a piece of backstory. I think that that's an interesting thing to help set her apart from other companions. But I don't like that there's going to be like a mystery around it, and that it's potentially going to develop into something more important to the plot later down the line. I just kind of like it as character detail, which, yeah, I wish it would be left at that. It's also very blatantly returned to RTD's preferred form of Doctor Who, which, again, it's not very surprising, of having the companion's family play a bigger role in things. Neither Stephen Moffat or Chris Chibnall seems too interested in that. Chibnall definitely more than Moffat, but still not nearly as much as RTD. And personally, that was one of the things, I mean, it's hard because on the one hand, it is something that RTD does really well, and he continues to do it well here. Both Carla and Sherry, Ruby's adopted mother and grandmother, are very likable characters and have a great relationship with Ruby that it would obviously be interesting to revisit. But at the same time, that's not really the kind of thing I personally care about when it comes to Doctor Who. I care about the adventures, the travels away from present-day Earth. Travel elsewhere out of the UK, travel through time, travel to other planets. Present day UK is my least favorite setting for Doctor Who, and RTD loves that setting for Doctor Who. And we're definitely getting a return to that being a more prominent focal point. Again, that doesn't mean that it would be poorly done, just not my cup of tea personally. But with all that character stuff talked about, why don't we talk a bit more about the plot, which is goblins. Goblins that feed on chance and luck and coincidence. And I have to say, you can really see the increased budget here. The goblins look fantastic. They really sell the smaller size of them, which is particularly impressive because if you see the behind the scenes, they're just regular sized people in costumes, and they've digitally shrunk them or put them in scaled up sets to trick you into thinking they're smaller, and it's executed really well. So is the Goblin King as well, which was almost entirely practical. It looked fantastic, and I'm glad to see Doctor Who continuing to embrace practical effects, still using CGI where it makes sense, but not relying on it exclusively. And the whole idea of having to fight bad luck and deal with coincidences, giving them more power, that's a really interesting idea and something that's a lot more challenging to fight against because that kind of stuff is mostly out of your control. Which is why I think it's kind of unfortunate that the story doesn't capitalize on it more. I think both that aspect and the goblins themselves were really underutilized as a threat. They had a lot of unrealized potential. And what we did get, I really liked. I just wish we had more of them because it feels like there's only a couple of really major scenes that include them. There's also the twist in the second half of the episode where the Doctor and Ruby seem to have saved the day, but the goblins go back in time to take Ruby as a baby, and as a result, she disappears from the timeline. This is another great idea, but again, I feel like it probably would have been better utilized elsewhere when it could have been expanded upon more. I mean, imagine something like that as a cliffhanger, for example. That'd be an amazing cliffhanger. I don't know, it feels unnecessarily overcomplicated for this kind of story, for them to erase Ruby from time and the Doctor has to go back. And I almost feel like it would be better personally if the Doctor stopped the goblins from stealing baby Ruby and then was coming back later in her life to check up on her to make sure that, they don't wreak any more havoc in her life. And I feel like that also makes a little bit more sense of the fact that the Doctor's following her around earlier on in the episode, because he says that he noticed she was having a lot of bad luck, but I don't really know how he would even have spotted that unless he was already following her. I don't know. That was just kind of awkward for me. I didn't really feel like that was a natural fit. So I think restructuring the story like that would make it make a little bit more sense and make their meeting a little more natural. And then, like I said, you can save the erase from time thing until later when you can squeeze more drama out of it. Still, it's an interesting wrinkle that is well done for what it is. I just think it doesn't live up to its full potential. And honestly, that's kind of how I feel about the whole episode. There is a lot of good stuff there, but it's not fully realized. It feels kind of half-baked to me, personally. And, I mean, honestly, I shouldn't be very surprised. I've never really found RTD's opening episodes to be the best. I mean, none of them are bad. Well, New Earth is, but most of them aren't bad. But none of his Doctor debuts or series premieres have ever reached an 8 out of 10 for me or higher. So, I don't know, this is just kind of continuing that trend. And for me personally, this is probably the weakest Doctor debut since the TV movie. Again, it's not bad, but it really doesn't live up to its full potential. And, I don't know, it just doesn't have as much depth or as many thrills as I was hoping it would. So I think overall, I'm going to give it just a flat 7 out of 10. Pretty good, but honestly not something that I'm going to be in a rush to revisit. Oh, and of course, how can I forget Mrs. Flood's fantastic closing line, "Ever seen a TARDIS before?" Obviously, there's a lot of speculation going on about that, and RTD has hinted that we're going to learn a lot more about Mrs. Flood as the series goes on, which kind of disappoints me, to be honest. I would have loved if this was just some throwaway, never explained fourth wall break. I think that would have been brilliant. Obviously, it still has the potential to be brilliant depending on what it turns out to be. And if it is a hint of something bigger, I do hope that Mrs. Flood is maybe an original character and not another returning villain. Because honestly, I feel like the new series just does not have enough recurring original characters and villains, so it would be great if that turned out to be the case. But yeah, I love that fourth wall break at the end, and a very cheeky reference. I don't know if it was intentional, but the very first Doctor Who Christmas special, The Feast of Stephen, what an iconic fourth wall break that was.
Incidentally, a happy Christmas to all of you at home.
But yeah, there we go. The new Doctor is here, Christmas specials are back, and we have about 5 months to wait until the full series. So yeah, it's going to be a long wait. Thankfully, not as long as we've had to wait the last few years. And yeah, I am still excited to see what's in store for the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. I just hope that it grabs my attention a little bit more than this episode did. But those are my thoughts on The Church on Ruby Road. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And with that, Murgaman 4, over and out. And I'll see you guys later.